This is the Best of the Week on Relevant Radio.
Cecile in Bryan, Texas. Good morning, Cecile.
Good morning, Patrick. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
We're in a very difficult time here in Texas, and with the natural disaster, with the flooding in Hunt, Texas, so many people have been affected by this and are carrying a lot of sorrow and grief.
Yep.
And
all of us around the country who are watching feel the same way, Cecile.
I know, and I know they feel that. I especially have a nephew who has reached out and had lost his best friend and his best friend's wife and 2 children. I want to help him, and he's asking me, how could God let this happen? A natural disaster. And, I know there's evil in the world, but I don't know how to answer him.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't, of course, live in the area, but all eyes that are watching this terrible tragedy unfold we're shocked and staggered by the loss of life, especially the children, the girls at that camp, etc. You may have seen, well, I'm sure you've seen the story, Cecile, about the 2 Catholic girls who were found, 2 siblings, and their bodies were found holding their rosaries clutched in their hand. Yeah, it's just heart-rending, and I don't have words, none of us does, to describe the anguish. So we're now standing face-to-face with the problem of evil. This is a haunting, incredibly difficult reality for us to consider, especially for those of us who believe in an all-powerful and all-loving God. In other words, the problem of evil could be put this way: if God exists, and if, as we Christians believe, he is all-powerful, and he loves us, how can evil exist? How can these kinds of disasters that rip away from us children, the most innocent of all, how can this happen? Why would God let this happen? Because as human beings, as human parents, you and I, we would do whatever we could to prevent that kind of tragedy from happening to our children. Therefore, we ask ourselves, if God really loves us and if he's really all-powerful, why does he allow these things to happen? So, because this is such a wrenching and emotionally difficult question for us to ask, the first thing I can say is that I don't have the answer that will make everybody say, oh, okay, now I get it. Oh, well, that makes sense. There is no answer like that. I mean, there is, but I don't know what it is. As the Bible says, God's ways are higher than ours, as high as the sky is above the earth, the heavens above the earth, so are his ways higher than our ways. So the first thing, it seems to me, we have to acknowledge that this is a mystery that God hasn't revealed the answer to us for. A few things we can say is that, number one, God is not the author of evil, but he permits evil that results from angelic and human free will choices, which we call sin, that causes suffering. And so suffering is this inexplicable reality. It's not a thing in itself. So suffering is not like a substance or a reality of its own. It's actually where something that's good that should be there is missing. Like the waters shouldn't overflow the riverbanks and destroy everything in their path. They should be within their limits of the aqueduct or the riverbed or something. But when things get out of control and there are goods that should be that there aren't, that's what we would call a natural evil. Now, natural evil, even that, which is different from moral evil is the direct result of free will choices like lying and stealing and killing, etc. Natural evils are still connected to human free will choices going all the way back to the garden. And so God created the world free from these things, free from natural disasters, free from cancer, et cetera, et cetera. And we messed it up. Our first parents, Adam and Eve, did. And what has happened is, and this is how we can try to grapple with the problem of evil, as painful as it is to recognize that the ripple effects of human free will choices, and angelic ones too, from the fallen angels, they have a ripple effect that continues to go outward continuously throughout time. And we're feeling the results of the primordial sin, the primordial fall of our first parents, Adam and Eve, who wrecked things for us. They caused a distortion to come into nature that wasn't there before. So, simply put, we ask God, why do you allow this to happen? And the answer is, well, number one, because I love you and I've given you free will so that you can be able to love me in return. Well, Lord, how is it love to let a floodwater come in and destroy campsites and kill people? And the answer that God gives us is that there is a higher purpose for this that we don't understand. We just don't know how. How is it that innocent children are suffering like this? Why would God permit this? Isn't this scandalous? Is God really a loving father if he permits this to happen? And again, in a way that is not emotionally satisfying, I fully grant that. The answer that the Lord gives us is Jesus on the cross. That he became one of us, entered into our very existence, and he himself suffered and even died to show us that there's something higher and greater beyond the sufferings of this world, or as the Bible says, then every tear will be wiped away, every injustice will be reversed, and all the different pains and sorrows that we experience in this life are going to be wiped away. Jesus said, "Blessed are those who mourn, for their tears will be wiped away." That's not very comforting, if you ask me, because we're dealing with the pain right now. But I will leave it at this, and I'd like to see what you think, Cecile, that as we grapple, as we wrestle with this terrible lack of an answer, at the same time, we trust in God's providence in a way that, as children, we are trusting in our parents in a way that when we get older, we sort of lose that trust because we think we can handle things on our own. I'll give you, from my own experience, Cecile, this helps me a little bit when I think about these terrible tragedies. One of my son Tim, when he was about, 2 or 3 years old, he was playing in the front yard, and some kid hit him in the face with something that opened a big gash above his eye. Nancy and I come running out into the front yard because our son is screaming, and there's blood all over the place. He's got his hand up to his eye, blood oozing through his fingers. We didn't know, did he lose an eye? What happened? So we just grabbed him and bundled him in the car and drove him. Thankfully, the hospital was 5 minutes away. We got him into the emergency room. And this is very heart-wrenching for me and for my wife, is to see our little boy looking at us as he is being laced up in the papoose board so he can't thrash, and the pain and the bright lights and these strangers poking around at this, and they're cleaning the wound, the doctor is, and then before you know it, he's actually stitching the wound. And our little boy was screaming and crying and calling out to us, "Mommy, Daddy, help me, help me, help me." We were just a puddle of goo. We were both crying because it's not that we couldn't do anything, but because by allowing the pain and the fear that he was experiencing, by allowing it to happen, something better for him would be accomplished. And that would be the healing of the wound in his eye. Thankfully, it didn't affect his vision. It didn't harm his eye at all, thankfully. You can't even really see the scar anymore, but it was a bloody mess at the time. But we had to let him go through the pain and the suffering and the fear and everything that went with it. And this is tiny by comparison. I don't mean to suggest that this is anything like children drowning in a flood, because it's not, obviously. But I do see a parallel there, that this little boy could not understand how it is that his parents, who claimed to love him, were standing by and doing nothing while this painful and fearful situation was happening that he didn't understand. All he knew is that it hurts a lot, and my mom and dad aren't doing anything to help me. Now, I can understand as an adult, you can understand, Cecile, as an adult, why the better thing was to let the doctor do his work. I can't translate that into the right words because I don't have them. to explain how is it that God is, quote unquote, standing by and allowing this to happen. But I believe with all my heart that God is a loving Father. He does love us, but because, as the Bible says, his ways are so far above our ways that we just can't understand how can this actually in some way serve some good purpose. I don't understand. I don't know, but I believe and I trust in God. And the only thing I can do is to say, he's here with us suffering. You might say God himself doesn't suffer, but he's here with us in our suffering. And he showed us by his own death on the cross that he is willing to suffer for us in the sense of Jesus suffering on the cross and everything else that he did. And that in due time, all our tears will be wiped away. And like our son Tim, who's all grown up now, he understands now why mom and dad didn't help him. He didn't understand it then, but he does now. And I think for us, it will be like that. It's not satisfying in the moment right now, but eventually I do believe that we will find out and we'll understand it better then. Those are my thoughts, Cecile. What are your thoughts?
I appreciate all of those words, and I'm looking forward to having my nephew listen. I do think when you were telling that story, because I had said this, that, you know, God is right there with you, just like you were and your wife were there for your son. And no one is more ready to love you, to hold you, and to comfort you than your parents, just like y'all. And that's what God is. He's your father. He is suffering with you. He knows your pain. But like you know, I guess I'm able to step in, but he's there. He is with you. He is there.
Yes.
And so I guess, like you said, I appreciate that his ways are not our ways. And there are things that we'll never understand until, please God, we're in his presence.
Indeed. And I know that some people hearing what I said and hearing what you said might dismiss this. So these are just empty platitudes. This is just pious talk that doesn't really mean anything. And it's not. These are not empty platitudes. They're real and they're true, but they're so difficult for us to wrap our minds around.
Yeah.
And yet we trust God. Jesus said, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." And we know that in heaven, all of our tears will be wiped away, and then we'll understand it. And then we'll be able to say, oh, now I understand. Didn't understand it then. And it was super painful, Lord, but now I understand. This entire episode of The Patrick Madrid Show is on the Relevant Radio app. The Relevant Radio app is completely free and updated daily with fresh articles, podcasts, and prayers. Don't delay. Download the app today. And thanks for listening.